photos and the videos coming out of Afghanistan of people trying to get out of that country any way that they can. The airport in Kabul is overrun with hundreds of people. You can see it in this video that I've been just struck by, I'm sure you have, all day, of citizens trying to cling to a U.S. Air Force jet taking off. Several people did stay on that plane as it took off, and then they died falling from the plane. Now, if you were alive during the Vietnam War, if you're familiar with history, these scenes probably remind you of the fall of Saigon in 1975. Americans and Vietnamese scrambled onto planes to evacuate, and a lot of people tried to climb the wall of the U.S. Embassy to get in to find refuge. Some of those evacuated from Vietnam were just kids, were children. It was called Operation Babylift. And an adoption agency based in Oregon helped get some of them out. A few years ago, Tracy Berry tracked down a woman who ended up in Oregon after being evacuated as a baby. Let's go into the KGW vault.
The evacuation was frantic, a fitting end to our longest, most expensive, and most divisive war.
I'll tell you, the images up here and in here are pretty vivid. Said, you have to leave now. She was a social worker for Holt.
John Williams was working in Saigon for Holt International as the war enveloped them.
Clearly a very tense time and a time of great uncertainty.
When it became clear that Saigon would fall to the North Vietnamese, Holt had 400 children in their care. They wanted to get them out. Then President Ford made a critical call. South Vietnamese children in the process of being adopted in the U.S. would be allowed to leave, flown out on government planes. Operation Babylift was born. Holt was offered the first plane out, a cargo jet, but passed. They had already chartered a different plane for the next day. That cargo jet crashed shortly after takeoff.
And, you know, many of our friends were on that plane.
The next day, the Pan Am 747, filled with 409 children and 50 adults, including John, took off. Each grown-up was assigned 10 kids to care for.
It was no free ride, I'll guarantee you that.
Oh, it was a long, loud, chaotic trip with stops in Guam and Hawaii, before finally making it to Seattle, then on to the East Coast, with children joining their new families along the way.
They're beautiful.
With the children delivered, John and the two other American Holt workers immediately headed back to Saigon. They needed to get their Vietnamese staff and 30 more children to safety before the airport shut down. The children made it. The staff didn't.
Some of them we know what happened to, and many of them we don't. But that was tough. That was tough.
Jody Willis was one of those children.
And I was 5 pounds, 12 ounces, and I was 6 weeks old. So I was teeny. You were handed to us at the Portland airport.
Jody was welcomed with a great celebration by her new family in Springfield, Oregon. Their joy expressed in every page of her carefully crafted baby book.
They told us about a special little tiny baby girl.
She joined a sister adopted from South Korea. Eventually, the family would grow to 4 children. She always knew her adoption story, but didn't always understand it.
And even you hear about it as a child, you don't get the concept of war and abandonment.
And the more she understood, the less she wanted to talk about it.
I knew enough that it wasn't popular, so then I was afraid that, one, people would think I was communist. So I always had to say, I'm from South Vietnam.
Now married for 21 years to her Springfield sweetheart and raising 2 children of her own, Jody's perspective has changed.
I am so grateful because regardless of the politics and the whatnot of the whole thing, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here today.
On this 40th anniversary, she is outspoken about her emotional journey.
I am a Christian, so God had a plan for me.
Yeah.
My husband says God brought his wife all the way across 2 oceans so he could have me.
Gratitude shared by so many whose lives were changed forever by Operation Babylift.
Makes you think a little bit more about the videos we were showing from Afghanistan before the peace. You think about the baby girls living there now.